Games are systems. Understanding that system leads to better decisions. Dragon's Dogma 2 is no different. The better we understand the system, the better decisions we can make. But before we can understand any system, we need a common language. This isn't Capcom's source code. It's something different. It's a model, built from everything the game allows us to observe. Everything I'm about to explore fits somewhere inside the current damage model. At first glance, it looks deceptively simple. But systems are rarely as simple as they first appear. So, let's build the model. Our job is to understand how the pieces fit together. If you've spent time reading reverse engineering discussions, you've probably seen terms like action rate, enchant rate, damage rate, and part multipliers. Those terms describe how the game appears to work internally. But they aren't the language most Dragon's Dogma players think in. We think in strength, magic, weapons, smithing styles, skill descriptors, enemy defense. And that's exactly what this model is designed to do. Not replace reverse engineering, but translate it into the language of Dragon's Dogma. We've now translated the language, so let's build the model. Every attack in Dragon's Dogma 2 follows the same general path. It begins with your character, passes through your weapon, is shaped by the skill you choose, interacts with the enemy, and finally becomes damage. That sounds simple, but every step changes the outcome. The important thing to understand is that these aren't separate systems. They're connected. Changing any one part changes the result. A stronger weapon changes the result. A different skill changes the result. A different enemy changes the result. The game isn't calculating damage from one number. It's calculating damage from the interaction of several different systems. And that's why players sometimes experience something that seems impossible. One weapon with lower visible stats can outperform another with higher visible stats, not because the game is broken, but because the entire system changed. That's exactly what this model is designed to explain. Throughout this series, I'll return to weapons like these, not because they're special, but because they help reveal how the system behaves. Today, I'm building the framework they'll eventually fit into. So let's start with the first piece, character attributes. Reverse engineering tells us that every attack begins with the character's own statistics. Dragon's Dogma players see those statistics on the status screen. Strength, magic. Those values already include the cumulative effect of your character, your equipment, your augments, and your rings. In other words, this is the foundation the rest of the damage system is built upon. The weapon is added to that foundation, but not every weapon behaves the same. And that's exactly why understanding the model matters. On the surface, two weapons may appear very similar. They may even display comparable statistics, yet one consistently performs better than the other. Why? Because the numbers on the status screen are only part of the story. Every attack begins with the same question: what power is available? Your character contributes to that answer. Your weapon contributes to that answer. The weapon's properties contribute to that answer. But available power is not the same thing as damage. Once an attack begins, the skill you've chosen determines how that available power is expressed. Then, the enemy becomes part of the calculation. Defense, magic defense, weaknesses, resistances. Every one of those changes the outcome. That's why no single number can completely describe your damage. Damage is the result of the entire system working together. So when someone asks, which smithing style is best, or why did this weapon outperform another one with higher visible stats, the answer isn't found in a single number. It's found by understanding where that question fits inside the model. That's why this current damage model matters. It isn't intended to replace reverse engineering. It's intended to organize everything we can observe into a framework that helps us make better decisions. Because once you understand the system, you stop guessing. You begin asking better questions. And better questions lead to better answers. But the game still has a couple of final decisions to make. How much of that available power should this attack actually use? That's where reverse engineering introduces something called action rate. Dragon's Dogma players experience it a little differently. We experience it through our skills. A light attack, a heavy attack, and a master skill aren't intended to deliver the same amount of power. They're expressing different amounts of power already available. The second decision is where the attack lands. Every enemy isn't one large hitbox. Different body parts respond differently. Reverse engineering refers to these as part multipliers. Dragon's Dogma players simply recognize them as weak points. Strike the right location, and the damage changes. We've now identified every part of the current damage model. Just as importantly, we've identified where each of those parts fits within the system. Character attributes, weapons, weapon properties, skill modifiers, enemy interaction. None of these systems exist in isolation. They work together. And that's why understanding Dragon's Dogma 2 isn't about memorizing one equation. It's about understanding the relationships between them. Once you understand those relationships, the questions become easier to ask and eventually easier to answer.